best time to raise money is when you don't need money.
You brought up ADHD.
Yeah.
Did someone diagnose you?
I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD. They diagnosed me with being a bad kid. I was an absolute machine at work, but I was a zombie outside of it. My first year working in this company, I made $0. So I took this massive sacrifice to come. And then, the following year I was able to pay myself $60,000. The third year I was able to pay myself more than when I left, and so forth.
You have to understand the problem, but understand the technology around it too, and match them both together so that the UI or development is exactly the problem you're going to solve.
The CEO's number one responsibility is to keep.
At 24 years old, I was let go of my corporate job. By 34, I was financially free with an 8-figure net worth. This podcast is all about taking adversities and turning them into financial success stories. I'm gonna ask for one small favor, and that's for you to click subscribe. Now let's get to the journey.
Welcome, Shawn.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So I just spoke with you for the last 15, 20 minutes and I'm revved up.
Nice, love it.
I love your energy, and already to just talking about your journey, it's like you've done a lot in the last, I believe you started your business 2018.
Yep.
Raised money, grew it. And now you're at a point where it's like, well, before we get to that, tell me a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm 40 years old. I grew up here in Ottawa. I'm married with 2 kids. I got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. My original background at a school was in commercial construction, spent 10 years working as a unionized ironworker. And now I'm the CEO of Corfix.
And if we take you back to why you started it, why did you start it?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things, right? Our solution solves a key problem that I was facing in the field in my previous job. So, I spent 10 years in that job, various kind of different stages of my career as a construction worker, but very, very quickly I had moved up and started running large scale projects. Early days, this was very, very daunting, scary, kind of lots to learn. But really quickly, I had developed a really good, solid crew, had a lot of people teach me the right way. And before long, this job wasn't stimulating me anymore, right? It just frankly didn't keep me up at night. I didn't worry about the same things. And for me, it was just a little like a phase of boredom, right? So the transition was easy for me. I saw this problem I was facing in the field, all these things that I hated to do. And I thought that we could solve this with a system of some sort, software or whatnot. And because I was naive, I took the shot, I took the opportunity to try to solve that problem. And today it's turned into a business.
Now, when you talk about boredom, usually people seek boredom, seek comfort. Do you seek comfort?
No, so like I'm ADD through and through, right? Like I thrive in chaos, right? I think quiet and comfort is kind of unsettling for me, right? So like everything I do in my life, kind of represents a little bit of chaos, and in a healthy way, right? And so this is the environment that I've always thrived in. And I think when I get to a place where I'm no longer learning, whether that's in sports, at school, or at work, I get bored and I get curious and I want to look out the window and I want to figure out something else to do.
And have you been looking out the window for a long period of time?
Man, I've been looking out the window my whole life. So.
And what does that mean?
Yeah, so I just think that school's a great example. So early on in school, getting in a lot of trouble, right? It was just like class clown, getting in fights, you name it. And in hindsight, it's just, again, because I was bored, right? And I'd sit in that classroom and look outside, but I can't wait till recess, right? Or I can't wait to get home to do this. And I just never felt like super present sitting still in that moment. And I always kind of, wondered where I can move to and what's next, right?
And while you're sitting in that desk looking outside, did you know, I mean, you brought up ADHD.
Yeah.
Did someone diagnose you, or how did you take that diagnosis and turn it into a superpower?
Yeah, so it took me a long time to figure all that out, for sure. I'd say that nobody diagnosed me with ADHD. They diagnosed me with being a bad kid, right? So nobody was telling me, hey, you got this, you got that. It's just like, you're a bad kid, right? And I think, the school system, when there's one teacher and 30 kids, it's easy to like just get the bad kid out of the class, right? So I can do my job easier. And so, I never, honestly, I never really subscribed to that narrative, but I just continued to do what I did because I was having fun and I could just kind of beat it to, I'd walk to the beat of my own drum. Later on in life, you start to hear these terms like ADHD, like where, should we medicate him and so forth. I did some testing. I did get diagnosed. I was prescribed medication. So this is while I was working construction. So I started it, right? I started to take this medication they prescribed to me. And listen, I was an absolute machine at work, but I was a zombie outside of it, right? So it really changed the way that like I felt and
When
changed.
taking the medication?
Yeah, taking the medication, was on the medication. Like it just made me different socially. So yes, I could sit at a table and, write an essay, but like my personality just got super, super dull. Right. So that was very quick for me. Never kind of touched the medication stuff again. And, but I quickly realized, like, even before working construction, I was working in a kitchen, right, as a line cook. And if you ever worked in the kitchen as a line cook, there's a lot of shit going on, right? There's like all these orders coming out. There's all this food that's being done at different sequences, high stress, and you got to get it done. And I was really, really good at that. And then when I moved to construction, it was similar, right? I've got a massive project. I got multiple phases going on, multiple people to take care of. And, my brain really, really works with that because I can do a whole bunch of things at once. So give me a really good team of executors. I'm going to be the best at kind of planning this out and making sure we're multitasking and everything gets done at the same time.
And why I'm bringing up this is because I hear people always I don't want to say look down on someone with a diagnosis or ADHD, but they don't look at the other side where, hey, instead of suppressing it, embrace it and thrive with it. And that's what you've exactly done in your career. What would you tell someone that has ADHD right now as a young kid that is trying to look outside the window but doesn't know what to do? Like, how did you get from there to here?
Yeah, that's tough. I think it's, there was a lot of struggle on the way, right? And there was a lot of kind of like negative consequences due to the acting out and not understanding that this is a superpower and needs to be harnessed properly. So, I would just say that you're not a bad kid, and it's really awesome now because I get to see my kids and their friends and their peers and how they conduct themselves, right? And, hear that like so-and-so is the troublesome kid in the class, right? And I see myself in them like, that's not a bad kid, right? They're just not in the right environment, right? So I would just kind of encourage them to work in different fields to understand, which one of those works best for your complement of skill sets.
And the field that you worked in was complement to your work set.
For sure. So like, I think of both the working in that kitchen for a few years, working on the job site. Frankly, all of the skills that I learned throughout those two completely different kind of places of work are still used today.
And how did you get into the construction? Like
Yeah. So I had a brief stint in sales. I worked one summer selling cars just because it's just like, hey, you can make $10,000 a month here. I'm like, okay, sweet, right? So same story, right? I show up to a super young on a car lot selling cars. I was really good at it, right? And but again, kind of same story. Like after a while, it's like, I don't really like this. Like it's not my style. I don't like working on Saturdays. I'm cleaning snow off cars when it snows. Like I don't love this, right? So I took a job selling software. So I was just an SDR or a BDR, sales development rep, and I'd make 100 cold calls a day. So I'd sit and just smash lists, right? And it's like, if you've ever done that job, that is the hardest job in the world. Right. You get hung up on every day, right? It's really, really tough. And I worked in a tech building for a tech company, and I wore this nice shirt to work every day, but I made no money, like nothing, right? And I was talking to a buddy who worked construction, said, Shawn, I'll pay you $50 an hour, like show up to this job site tomorrow. I showed up there and that kind of turned into a 10-year career.
Oh wow, that's incredible. Were you born as did you come from an entrepreneurial family?
Not at all. So both my parents are unionized workers. My father, drove public transportation, and then started to get an office job at OC Transpo. And my mother worked for the Canadian Union of Public Employees. So very, very kind of modest upbringing. What I know now about life is like we didn't have tons of money.
Mm,
We certainly weren't poor. We didn't have tons of money,
mm.
but our parents never let us kind of feel that, right? So we did everything we needed to do. But now as a parent, like I know how difficult that is to kind of patch those things together, especially on kind of the salaries at the time.
So then, when you're raising money and you're now coming into money,
Mhm.
what's your mindset? Is like, did it scare you? Like, was it overwhelming experience?
Yeah. So no, I would say that, I was being an iron worker is a pretty good life. I was doing pretty well, and I would say I was making good money. I was making six figures, full pension, full benefits, but it's hard work, right?
Mm.
So I had,
And was this in the Ottawa area?
the Ottawa
Okay.
area. So I had built up like I owned a home,
Mhm.
right? I owned a vehicle. I wasn't coming from like certainly coming from nothing. And then the reality is when I left working on steel, I was making six figures. My first year working in this company, I made $0,
Right.
right? So I took this massive sacrifice to come, and then the following year I was able to pay myself 60,000. The third year I
Mm,
was able to pay myself more than when I left, and so forth. So it's gradual versus like just coming into a large sum of money. Also, I think growing a bootstrap business teaches you a lot about money and about finance,
right.
right? So for a guy who didn't go to school, I got a collision course
Mm,
on finance, and we grew a capital efficient company. So we made a lot of decisions because we didn't have $10 million to blow. My co-founder and I were looking at people who were underperforming and being like, that's literally money out of our pocket.
mm,
We would make really good decisions, right? And be very mindful of how we spent our money. And it just taught us really, really good habits. So then actually, when we pulled in significant capital from investors, the same kind of mindset existed within the company. We weren't frivolous spenders,
mm,
and frankly, like the model before that was spend, spend, spend. And like software and SaaS, it's like spend ahead, spend, spend, spend. And because we weren't institutionally backed at the time,
mm,
we had better habits.
mm.
And then once we did receive the money, it didn't go into spend, spend, spend. Like we were calculated and disciplined.
And did you go to school? Like, how did you start learning all this stuff?
Yeah. So awesome, awesome question. So how does a construction worker become a CEO, an effective one? So
And the second part to that is what triggered you to start the business? Like, what was it?
okay, so we'll start with that one. Um, I saw this massive kind of shift in the industry where we were prioritizing like paperwork, right? And this seemed like completely backwards from what it had been when I came in, right?
Mm,
So I used to be kind of applauded for speed and efficiency,
mm,
and then it turned into me being scolded because I was skipping administrative steps. And as a construction worker, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa! Like I'm here because I don't want to do that stuff,
mm,
right? And I wasn't able to beat that system, right?
mhm,
It just continuously got pushed down. Every year got more and more. We went from filling out one document a week to three documents a day. And I'm like, this is insane. Like these companies spend millions and tens of millions of dollars to have the best equipment outside, but they're faxing timesheets and safety reports. So this was sort of the catalyst to me to be like, hey, there's got to be a better solution. We
mhm.
can create something here. And I went down that path. So we, once we got sort of a company built, a small company.
And why did the industry change to more paper based than performance based?
Great. So it's all regulation based, right?
Okay.
So we are a health and safety compliance tool. We help business owners and companies manage liability. So liability being the workers on the job site, right? A construction company is a fragmented workforce. We're at head office, we receive all our contracts, we deploy all our workers. Well, those workers are working in remote places. We have no visibility into their activity. And if they're completing their subsequent paperwork, that keeps us compliant within the regulatory standard.
So it's the government passing on regulations that then the company has to
Correct.
push onto the employees.
Correct. And then to take that even further, the large private companies, the general contractors, the PCLs, the LS Dons of the world, they are passing down rules and laws that are even more aggressive than like the regulatory minimum. And you as a subcontractor of that company are forced to comply with those. So it's just getting more and more aggressive. And again, it's for the purpose of, absolving themselves from inevitable liability that'll happen on a construction site. A construction site isn't if it'll happen, it's when it'll happen. Of a company, unfortunately, right? And it's a numbers game. If you've got 100 people and you're working 40 hours a week, you're likely going to run into issues, and we want to minimize those so that they're not critical issues.
So they're passing more regulatory to protect themselves even more based on what their lawyers are saying to their staff, type of thing.
Correct. So the regulatory bodies pass down a law. So the best concrete example I could give you of that is that if you need to be, if you're working at heights, if your feet, the bottom of your feet are above 8 feet, you need to wear a harness. Well, the client I work for could say, that's a great rule, but ours is 6 feet. So the new rule, that rule supersedes the regulatory rule because it's even more aggressive. So we would follow that. And then so in this case, it would be documentation. So the client or the large contractor rather would say, hey, on this job site, we fill out 3 pieces of paper a day, and these are the pieces of paper. Well, prior to using a system like ours, you're trying to manage this on pen and paper, take pictures, give it back to the office. You're getting shut down because you don't have the right paperwork. And if you do have an incident, the first thing that happens is there's an investigation. Ministry of Labor shows up and they say, hey, let us understand, the process here. Are these workers aware of the dangers, right? And how to avoid those dangers. And if they are, like, I need to see the documentation to show that they've acknowledged that. So this is kind of the problem we're solving. A company can.
So while you were working, if you needed a harness, you would probably just jump up and you wouldn't take the harness. You would just do it
Every time.
Right.
And honestly, like, and
that's the speed and production of it versus.
For sure. Like, I work like an owner, and that was part of why I left, because like once you work like an owner and don't get paid like an owner, it's just like that sucks, right? But my mindset was always about pride, and I'm always trying to get the best number. Like my job's going to finish under budget, right? And try to beat everybody else. So
once these rules started happening, instead of jumping on the site, you would have to fill out this paperwork and submit it.
Correct. And then it just kind of bogged.
And you wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it. So I'll tell you what happened. So we would, when you have a paper-based system, companies would hire people in pickup trucks to drive to the job sites, pick up these documents, bring them back to the office, scan them, put them in a computer. Well, I knew that my guy showed up on Friday. So when do you think I did my paperwork? So I did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on Friday morning with different hands, different colors, right? But the problem, it's just to check a box, right? Yeah. But the problem is if my guy falls off the truck on a Wednesday, smashes his head, like we're both fucked.
Yeah.
Right? Him, me, and my owners. Right. And then again, if you think about the construction company, the owner's not even on the job site, right? And he has liability in this. So by getting them to acknowledge the process of unloading a truck, this is how we do it. These are the things we don't do. That worker signs off on it. It becomes a personal liability at that point because they went rogue and they understand our policies. We've echoed those. They've acknowledged them via signature, and we can prove that.
So you're seeing this. You're seeing even 4 days of non-compliant.
Oh, for sure.
5th days happening.
Yeah.
What triggered the start of the business?
Yeah. So what triggered the start of the business is how painful it was for me to oblige to the request. So it's just like, I love working with my hands. I love like slugging it out with the guys. And now you're asking me to be an admin clerk in a construction trailer.
Mm.
If you're gonna ask me to do that, bring me back to the tech company with a nice coffee machine and a nice couch, right? So like I'm sitting on my lunchbox filling out paperwork, and these guys are telling me they don't like the way I do it.
Right.
So I just thought like, and I'm looking outside again. I'm looking outside, right? And I'm like, holy shit, that big company over there is also dealing with this.
Right.
But all they've done is hire 10 people to like kind of figure it out, right? So there's got to be a better way.
Mm. And then you invented the better one.
Yes, sir.
So when did that start?
Um, Look, I reached out to somebody in the tech business and I kind of pitched him my idea. And it was actually the managing director of LSpark. Okay. So before I got into the program,
What is LSpark?
so LSpark is a software incubator based out of Canada. So they seek out early stage founders and companies to help them bring them into a program where they can teach them all the skills, surround them with the resources to help them become entrepreneurs and have successful companies.
You didn't go to school.
No.
You're on a construction site.
Yeah.
And now you're heading into suit and tie software execs.
Yep.
What's going through your mind there?
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know, man. I'm like, I get up every day and just hit one day at a time, right? So
Because I'm just saying there's a lot of people that wouldn't do that. What got you to do it? The belief in yourself, the this is a problem, the passion in your industry.
yeah, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough thing to answer because I'm not sure. I'm like, this is a problem that needs solving. I want to solve it for myself because I hate this about my job. If I can solve this, I can play more golf in the afternoon, right? And so we did that. And then it's like a hobby, right? Like we built this little product and now like companies are using it. And it's like, holy shit, I just got a check for this, right? So then it became like, okay. And like we were it was still a hobby. And then, we run into like this LSpark company is like this is like a really good company. Like you need to make this a company. And so just woke up every day, just kind of like, let's just try to move the needle a little bit further. Let's talk to more people.
Did someone tell you to go into the program or
They reached out to me, and it's a great story. So they reached out to me and said, hey, Shawn, like we're from LSpark. We have a cohort that's closing in like a month, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of like sloughed it off. I had known about the program. I didn't think it really applied to me.
what's a cohort?
So they, I don't know the exact numbers, but my understanding is like they spend the entire year interviewing, like and reaching out to like a few hundred companies,
Okay.
right? And then they suss out those companies for like viability, which would be like good fits for the program. And then there's this massive pitch fest where we go in front of a panel, we pitch our companies, and they select a certain amount of companies to make a cohort to go through this 6-month boot camp, right? So in that boot camp, I learned everything from like fundraising to, how to run a board meeting to, internal operations meetings, things like that, and worked with the team there to kind of develop those processes and learn about kind of growing a SaaS company and what it takes to do that. And I more or less got my education there.
Nice. So you went in, you pitched,
Yep.
they accepted you.
Yep.
You were one of how many?
8.
8
Yeah.
out of hundreds.
Yep.
And pitch them for money or pitch them just the idea at this point?
It's a pitch to get into the program.
Okay.
Really. So it's just like, hey, this is who we are. This is where we're at. This is the opportunity. We need your help. And then, similar to kind of like a Dragon's Den or Shark
Yep.
Tank setup, you have all these former entrepreneurs, investors sitting there, be like, I can help that guy, right? And then others would be like, no, I can't help him. Like, that's not my space. So from there, I got paired with a mentor who's still with me today, right? And got paired with kind of, different kind of executives at different level to give me the support I would need to learn and to kind of bubble wrap us and like where are the vulnerabilities, where are the things you're not thinking about, and just really really grew a lot in there. And then let's talk about my people. So I have some really incredible people who joined me early, who are still with me today. Um, a few of those guys worked with me on the job site, right? So
They understand the problem.
they understand the problem, and I think more importantly, like character wise,
Mm.
right? I knew what I was getting. So I'll never forget. Like I'm telling my co-founder, "Hey, I got our first sales guy." And he's like, "Who is he?" I'm like, "Oh, he's my buddy Carl. He's a rebar guy. You know, he works with me on." And like my business partner, my good friends, it's like, the fuck, like what do you mean, man? You know? And I'm like, just trust me. Yeah, I need you to trust me on this, right? And because look, when somebody shows up for you at 6 a.m. in the dark, in the cold, works outside, never complains, wants to know how they can do better every day, it's just like, listen, we'll teach him how to use a CRM, right?
Love it.
So we sure enough did that, and I worked. There's 2 or 3 people that I worked tirelessly to convince to leave their unionized comfort and to come join me, right?
Wow.
For a reduced salary, you name it. And they're all still with me today. They're all doing better than they were when they
100%.
left. And it's like a super rewarding part of this journey, right? To just bring people along with you.
So that 6 months while you're going through the LSpark, are you know the problem? Have you started the business at this
Yeah,
point?
yeah. So I try to I try to kind of, I get asked this question a lot and try to reflect on like where I was at that point. But I believe we were about 4 employees and about, you know, kind of a dozen customers. Half of them were paying us, half of them weren't. So it was about like, how do we, like, we've created traction.
Hmm.
Um, but how do we deliver on that, right? And how do we make this repeatable? So like we knew we had something, but can we sell this to people who don't know us?
Hmm.
Can we make money doing this? And like early days, right? Like I'm everything, right? Like
Hmm.
I prospect, I close, I onboard, deploy, retain everything. So from there, it was like, okay, well, let's learn, right? Like, what does it take to support a construction company? What does it take to retain? Learn, 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 learn. Okay, we have a gap here. I need to hire an onboarding specialist, bring him in, and just kind of learn day by day of like, what they need and what's required. And we never got too far out ahead of ourselves, just really tried to win every day. Like, this is what's needed to do today. Let's fix this problem today.
Love it. And when you started it, did you think you needed $50,000 to start, 100,000? Like, what was?
Oh man.
Go ahead.
So I had a family friend. I'm like, listen, I know a guy that's got cash and I'm going to go pitch this guy. So I sent him an email. I'm like, hey, Shawn, I got a business idea I'd love to talk to you about. So we meet at the Brook Street. I think it was like 5 o'clock. We just meet for a beer. So I didn't know if that was going to be a 20-minute conversation or like an hour conversation. Like 4 hours later, I remember calling my business partner, like had a bunch of beers and be like, holy shit, like I got the money. So it was a tough grind trying to explain what you do and how you're going to make money, like early days, right? But I got a check from a family friend and put that in my pocket, and we started working with a
How much was the check for?
it was I believe 150,000.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't, I asked him, I believe it was for 80. And he's like, whoa, I don't think 80 is going to do it. I think you need like 100. Right. So then we initially settled on 100. And then after, through kind of talking to people that are going to build this, like we need 150 to have a conversation. Right. And I'd say that it cost us a lot more. It probably cost us a few million by the time we actually got a product to market.
Mm.
And some of that is like real costs, and some of that is just not knowing all of the intricacies of like how to build this, how to properly contract this out, right? Like even we contracted it out, I'm like, build this, here's the money. They're like, here's this. I'm like,
Mm.
that's not what I want,
Mm.
right? And they built me what I told them to build them,
Mm.
but because I was inexperienced,
Right.
I didn't tell them the right thing to build,
Right.
right? So there's 150K
Right.
wasted, right?
Right.
So it's an expensive game to play.
Yeah, because usually there's like, even my journey, there's levels to the game where, okay, you start your first business. It might be a mobile cleaning business. Then you move to X amount of employees,
Yep.
more service based. Before you move to the tech,
Yeah.
the big swing big multiple big thing. And I see my journey of, hey, I started a business, 10 years, learned it. Now I'm moving to tech and I see exactly what you mean. If you're not specific, you have to understand the problem, but understand the technology around it too, and match them both together
Yeah.
so that the UI or development is exactly the problem you're going to solve.
Yep.
And if you can't communicate both things to the developer, they'll develop and then you're back to square one type of thing.
Oh, it's incredible. And that problem isn't isolated to the first build,
Right.
right? So, how you continue to build product. Like I was the first product manager for my product. I'd sit with my head of development and we'd be like, I need it to work like this. And he'd type a few like letters and boom, the product worked, right? And it was just like we were literally building features over the phone. And then it's like, now we have this big machine and things are a lot more bigger and complex and don't move that fast and take longer to build, right? So we struggled for a while with just what you're talking about of like, once it wasn't me, who would be that kind of liaison between our software developers
Mm,
and the market,
mm,
right? And our customers, right? And like, are we still building the product that our customers want us to build?
mm.
And then that's also a dangerous line. It's just like if you just build everything they want you to build, you're going to go way like this and
Right.
your product will look nothing like you intended it to look like, right?
Did you
So
know technology at that point?
uh no.
Okay. So you,
Yeah.
right.
I can open my email and
Yeah, because you're not in front of the, like you're just communicating what you want to the developers.
correct. So if I back this up a little bit, I got very lucky again with people. So
I don't think it's luck. I think it's skill. That's one of your superpowers to
appreciate
create
that.
that.
Thank you. And I prior to even going to the studio, there's an initial story where the person giving me the money, my family friend, says, Sean, I know a guy who could do this for you.
Okay.
Right. And we're going to pay him 100 grand and he's going to do it in his basement. Right. And within 3 months, we realized this guy can't do the job. Right. So we clean that out. And then our knee-jerk reaction was to go to the big studio and build our product there. So we'd have a little bit more stability. So
Big studios, what?
like it's a kind of brick and mortar
Okay.
um, software development agency
Okay.
who you go to and they contract builds like this, right? So, partly on me and not effectively communicating what we need to build. I was given a date of when we'd launch our product and I went and pre-sold everywhere. I was in board meetings, presenting slides to executives on a product that doesn't even exist yet that I told them existed, and ready to sell, and the date is supposed to be ready, and our product's not ready. Created an enormous amount of tension between us and the contractors and the firm that we were building with. During that time, I intersected and I met this super young, like early 20s, graduated from Queens, and was a software developer making $60,000 a year as a part of a team. And I got introduced to this guy and told him this, I was told this guy is like the best in the biz, right? Like, get this guy in here. So I called him and I said, hey, look, like I've got this business. I'll give you some equity. Come be my developer, and I need you to get rid of this firm that I'm dealing with. So sure enough, I gave him $60,000 and some stock options, and he came in and completely displaced this firm of like designers, developers, project managers by himself.
Mm.
And we built a team around him. So I now know it had been very difficult to build and scale a company through like a big agency like
Mhm.
that. So we were very lucky that we met a unicorn kind of technical founder at that time who was able to not only build a product, but build people and a company around him.
Is he still with you?
Absolutely.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
man.
So now you're selling
Yeah.
to contractors. You have relationships with all these people.
Yeah.
You've given them your word.
Yeah.
The product is not there yet.
Yeah.
What's happening now?
Well, we lost deals, right? So again, it's like if you wait till you're ready to sell, you're going to struggle just as bad. So it's like,
Mm.
you told me I'm going to be ready. We're going to go sell ahead of time. So we did that, and it's nerve wracking, right? But we did it. We put on a good face. We were confident. And, in one instance particular, um, we were just trying to keep the ball in the air, right? I need one more week to fix this, almost like just like lying and just kind of like, I just need to just keep this opportunity. They're saying they're 3 more days away from done. This product does exist, but it's just not ready for me to show to them. And then ultimately they got impatient and left, right? And then some people had more patience. Like at this time, we were really early to market. There wasn't a ton of solutions, so people were more patient. But when that happened, it's just like I honestly went nuclear. Like when I say there was friction between us and like this company, it was like there was friction.
Mm,
And I wasn't a businessman at that point. I was a
mm,
construction worker again, and I wanted this stuff done now,
mm,
but when that was happening, I brought in, Spencer, and Spencer came in and displaced them, and we were off to the races at that
mm.
point. And
So once he took it, he was able to exponentially get the software out and
yeah, he's a machine. And I mean, he made it look easy.
mm,
And 5 years later, I know it was hell for him,
mm,
right? Like he just grinded every day, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week to make this shit happen, right? And
mm,
and those are the types of people who are successful in my company,
mm.
right? Who are just like anything to get the job done, right? And he was one of those people. And I'm immensely grateful that he took that opportunity, and it makes me feel really, really good that he's going to do well on that choice.
Love it. So now you're selling.
Yep.
You're at how many employees?
So we're 40 full-time employees.
No, at that point when you just started out, like you have a co-founder,
A co-founder, myself, and I have like I have it's we hired him as a sales guy at the time. He now works in a different department in the company, but yeah, we hired a sales guy. So it was
Sure.
me, my lead developer, my co-founder was still working his job
Mm,
because he was still working. He had a good salary with a good job, and he wasn't in a position to come over and leave yet, but he was still working on the company. And you know, another super loyal guy came into our company, a guy that I'd kind of known from our community that just finished, got a package from a larger company and said, Sean, I'll come work for work for free for 6 months, right, to
mm,
prove it. So it's like, I mean, like these are the type of people I had, right? So I had a guy come in, bust his tail as our first guy. We couldn't really pay him a salary. We're just gonna, pay you what you kill. Early days, he wasn't killing much because we just didn't have enough.
mm.
And but he's still with us today. So, worked for us for free for 6 months, has done multiple, kind of functions in the company. He's an absolute like bull, a
Mm.
weapon. And like, he's one of those people that you can't do this without.
So did you blow through the 150 at that point? And like, were you needing more money to?
Oh yeah. So that 150 like disappeared, like, basically with like the conversation and scoping out the work. Right. And that's part of like bringing somebody in house is like, we gotta control some of these costs. Right. So, we,
Did you go raise money or
yeah,
what did you?
for sure. So being in the software incubator, a huge component of that was fundraising. So understanding how to raise from all different kind of markets, right? Whether it's like institutional investor, angel, government grants, you name it. So I went on this mission to fund my company, right? In my mind, the CEO's number one responsibility is to keep the company funded. There's a million responsibilities underneath that, but it's just like that's top priority, right? So I gotta to keep us funded. So I started to look into grants, into kind of all these different vehicles for money. We used Canadian government grants. I raised money from family and friends in little pieces, kind of like doing small $600,000-700,000 rounds, kind of like once a year, right? Where I'd piece together a few people for a few hundred K each. And we bootstrapped to approximately $3 million we had put into the company at that point through these various sources. We did a customer round where we had customers that were very, very eager to get involved with the business using our product, thought they could help us impact the development roadmap and so forth. So we did sort of a customer round. And then we raised a Series A last year. So, that was from a US investor, help us get some like real institutional growth capital into the company. And that's where we're at today.
When you're raising this money from family and friends, you're talking stock options, you're talking accounting, you're talking tax, you're talking
Yeah.
like a whole nother level of just understanding of finances. Like, is that mentor helping you? Or like at that point, your co-founder, like do you guys separate roles at that point to be like, you take care of the back end, I'll do the raising, or like, how did you navigate that?
Yes. So, I mean, I, um, I early on, I was introduced to a CFO that had a lot of experience in raising capital for private companies. He had a lot of experience in working for super large scale companies, as well as startups, as well as founding and exiting his own startup as a CEO. So him and I met during the time I was in this incubator, and we started to work really closely together. And he taught me everything I know about fundraising. Shout out Jason Burke.
Mm. So he was your right hand person.
Yeah. So when it came to fundraising, like that was our initiative. We did that together. He has had a whole bunch of experience there, not only doing it, but understanding all the players we need to talk to. Certainly that doesn't happen overnight. There's an enormous amount of learnings there. We did an enormous amount of investor calls. But yeah, I mean, learned stuff the entire way. Trusted in the process that the people I was around, put in front of me as like the winning formula. I walked that process every day. And everything that I was told would happen if I did that did, right? I kept passing those checkpoints. So I continue,
What were those checkpoints?
just like raising a customer round, right? Like doing anything like, doing something over $1 million. It's easy to get friends and family to buy in, but can you get a savvy investor on board? And what does that take? That's more than a conversation, right? Like, what is all the material that needs to be prepped? How do you, manage the process, right? How do we go through due diligence, all of those pieces? So it's for anybody who's ever done fundraising, it's incredibly complex and they know that. Having somebody who's navigated this over and over again in my corner doing this with me was like invaluable.
Are you doing the presentations to the investor, or is your CFO, or it's a mixture of both?
I'm the main presenter, so I'd say it's like Batman and Robin, me being Batman. He's early days, like it's stressful when you're like, when you're a young guy with no money and you go into rooms and you're pitching VCs, it's intimidating, right?
100%.
Until you figure out that you're the subject matter expert and they know nothing about your business, right?
Right.
And then so getting to that point of like that like confidence of being like, I don't need them, they need me. Right. So that process there was like super important mindset of understanding of like, we are in control here, right? And we've got a great company. And if there are people that are going to want to work with us, and the people that don't, well, that's all right. We're moving on.
And once that mindset shift happened, do you see more doors open?
Oh, it's incredible. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure that all founders who have tried to raise institutional money can relate to this, but it's incredibly taxing. You're going to talk to so many people who will never write you a check, who are just there to like fill a quota, to make calls. So once you figure that out, you get incredibly kind of disciplined with your time and understanding, where you're going to spend that time. Um, Sorry, what was your question again?
Just the fact that like you change
Oh,
your
yes, that's right.
mindset to like, I'm the subject matter expert, even though they're sitting at the front of the
Yeah,
boardroom
yeah,
writing a check. They need you more than you need them.
yeah, for sure. So, um, early days, like I'm sure they can smell it from you, but
Yeah.
when they know you need money, it's hard to get it.
Right.
And like there's an old saying, it's like the best time to raise money is when you don't need money, right? So when you go in and you tell a VC, hey, I need $2 million, and you'd be like, why? Be like, because I'm running out of money. I need to pay my staff. They're gonna be like, that doesn't sound good for me, right? And instead of saying, because like we've worked out all this stuff and I know $1 in equals $3 out, Well, I need 2 million because I can make 6,
Right.
right? So, you know, once that mindset changed, so what I would say is like I was forced to change the mindset. I fundraised early on and got nowhere. And I got so pissed. I'm like, these people are taking me all leaving me at the altar, right? So I went in this mode of like, forget you guys, right? Like I'm gonna put my head down, I'm gonna focus on executing. And then the inbounds continue to come. I ignore the inbounds, right? They're just all over me. Hey, do you want money? You want money? I'm like, this is like a waste of time. And I start to, after a while, take a couple of these calls. And when I get on the call, it's a very different mindset. Like I'm barely preparing, right? Because I don't care if they give me money or not, because I don't need it right now. So I'm in there and like literally almost sloppy showing up to like, man, if you want my deck, like just take it. Everybody loves it now, right? And everybody's like, oh my God, like, do you mind and almost wanting to do work for you to make the deal happen. So that's confidence, right? They can feel that, they can see that, and that's half the battle.
Mm, that's amazing. I love it. And I I resonate with that so much because if you're chasing something, you keep on chasing it. But if you let something come to you, you're wide open and more comes to you type of thing.
I swear people love to be chased. And
Yeah.
everybody like out loud says, I hate being chased. But the second you stop chasing them, they start chasing you.
Yeah.
Right. And this happens, forget investors, this happens with customers. It
Yeah.
happens with, you know, employees you're trying to bring into the company. And so yeah, I think that's definitely part of it of like confidence. It's tough early days when you're like, I need this money. This person holds um the keys
Yeah.
to the next step.
Yeah.
And oh my God, are they going to like me? Are they going to care how I'm dressed? Do they like my deck? Right. Versus like, I don't care about all that. This is my business. This is a great business. If you want to get involved, great. If not, there's a lineup of people at the door that do.
So now you're raising money, you're knocking on people's doors, your platform is, where's your platform stand right now?
Yeah. So we started specifically with health and safety for all the reasons I talked about. This was the pain I was feeling. This was like the regulatory wedge, like we're going to go into there. From there, we had a lot of traction and we're like, okay, what other modules can we introduce that are really complementary to this? For me, it was easy. It was time tracking, right? Because
Mm,
on the job site, would fill out paper time cards and it was like 8, 8, 8, 8. Like it wasn't always real,
mm.
right? It's not because it's like intentional and unintentional time theft.
Yeah.
There's like errors and all this stuff. And then we'd fill this out and like I'd go fax it. And then somebody would call me on Monday, be like, why do I have David on your job
Mm,
and his job? Right.
mm,
And it's a massive mess. So we were like, okay, well, I know what module this industry needs next. So we built a time tracking module and created dependencies between the two modules. And then that started to take off. So we really started to differentiate from our competitors at that point. And since then, we've kind of layered on some more modules that complement each other to be more of an end-to-end kind of workflow for that end user. Like the construction tech built before us was really built for kind of office staff, project managers, engineers, and has failed to capture the end user. But the end user is like the 90% of the company, and they're the ones driving all of the data. So
mm.
our approach is really like, what do they need? What do we build for them? Because if they use it, they drive all of that data, then Command Center gets everything that they need and without having to chase it.
And who's your ideal client?
So our ideal client is kind of like a construction company, a specialty trades contractor working in a commercial regulated space. So,
Mm,
anywhere between kind of 50 and 500 workers is our sweet spot. We have clients with 1,500, 2,000 workers. Some as small as kind of, you know, 30 to 40, if you will. Early days, we worked with much smaller companies. Was more difficult. They
mm.
weren't as ready. We're solving a problem they may not feel yet. So working with less of those companies today and focus more on the ones that are kind of in this sweet spot that really feel this pain because the types of projects they're working on in the regions they're working in.
across Canada, America?
Yeah, we're across Canada. We're in over 20 states. So I've been selling in the US for multiple years now. It's very, very fun because I get to meet lots of like brilliant people from all different walks of life, managing all different shapes and sizes of construction companies that all have a lot of things in common, right? They're really, really hard workers, determined, and yeah, it's great. So just kind of working in completely like, being in Miami and seeing a client in Miami and then in Ottawa, and how they use the same product to solve the same pains in different ways is pretty special.
And the regulatory bodies in the States versus Canada, is it less or more?
Yeah, it's very different. So, what I learned very early on is the US isn't one market, it's not 50 markets, it's like hundreds of different like down to the municipality and the
Mm,
township. They all have kind of different regulations and rules. Um, so obviously for us, the ones that are more strict and more severe inflict pain and
mm,
cause people to run to us,
mm,
versus the super non-regulated areas where people aren't even filling out paperwork. Like
mm.
I have to teach them the risk and the problem before we give them a
Right.
solution, right?
So
So
yeah.
we've in Canada, it's very, very regulated. It's been for a while. In the US, there are specific states that are very similar to Canada that
Mm,
we target.
mm.
The New Jerseys and
New York.
Massachusetts, New Yorks, um, and it's really this. They're in the same environment as we
Yeah.
are here, so it's
Gotcha.
very like replicable.
Gotcha. And your staff is all Canada based?
Yep. So they're all Canada based. So we're spread across Canada. So we have people in Ottawa, Toronto, uh, Calgary, Montreal, Newfoundland. Um, the bulk of our team is here in person. We are an office culture. We work in office, and but we do have some people remote.
What does your wife say about all this?
Then or now?
Both.
Yeah. So, I'm, as you could tell, like I'm risk on. Everything I've ever done in my life is like I love risk. I mean, that's what makes me feel alive. My wife's the complete opposite of that, right? And that's why it works. So she's
Right.
extremely risk adverse, very conservative. So, we're lucky because we she had a stable job that
Mm.
allowed me
Take the risk.
to take the risk, right? So like early days, she was kind of like, well, this is crazy. I would never do what you do, but I'm also not relying on you,
Mm.
you know? Um, and now she's like, this is insane. I can't believe you do what you do, but I'm relying on you. Right? So yeah. So I mean, it's been an amazing journey. Really, really early on, my father-in-law joined us,
Mm.
and he had been retired at an early age, took a whole bunch of time off to kind of live an early retirement life. He got bored, and I had asked him, he was very, very interested in what I was doing, and I knew that he had he was well versed in finance. And I said, hey Joe, like I need you to help me build a spreadsheet so I can borrow money from the Canadian government. So he helped me build that first model, right? And he's still with me today.
That's cool.
So that was a really unique experience because the person that my wife respects the most in the world was like intimately attached to my company and got to see, like, honestly, my wife wouldn't have believed half the stuff that was going on if it wasn't for him kind of
Mhm.
giving her
Really?
the skinny, right? So amazing.
Does he, so he fully supports you and he's all in on
Oh yeah, yeah,
it?
and some. So
Yeah.
fully support.
Yeah.
So he's
That's cool.
kind of worked every function in the company and just been like, hey, what do you need me to do, right? And used his kind of corporate experience and sales experience where he can in the company. And he's always been like, Sean, I have loved this journey, and like what can I pick up? So the role's evolved. He's done a little bit of everything. He um,
How do you make your father-in-law accountable to work?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it's really
has it
not it's
happened?
really not difficult. So like because of the type of person he is,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, I think we're now in a phase like we definitely went through this phase where he's like, "Whoa, like, like this is more than I bargained for," right? But we're in this now in this place where he's just like, he has a function that he loves doing that he loves being involved in and he wants to be a part of. So it's definitely not, I never have to kind of, he's a model employee.
There you go. AI,
Yeah.
it's happening quick in tech.
Yeah. It's crushing tech stocks.
It's crushing tech stocks. What's your view on AI? Are you guys implementing AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
So my view on AI. So I do believe that there's an enormous amount of noise going on right now, but I also think that there's a bunch of gold in there as well. Right.
Mhm.
So, um, we, specifically for me, like we have an interesting end user, right? Massive aversion to technology.
Right.
There's crazy laggards. Like they're just
Yeah.
like starting like to use like basic tools, right?
Mm,
The words AI are scary to them.
mm,
It's like it's unknown, right? So we are building, we're building features that are assisted by AI to give them their results faster and more simpler in the background. So for them, it's all about results. It's not like, hey, we have an AI safety tool. It's about like, hey, we have a safety tool and it's faster and more efficient than anything we have. So absolutely layering those pieces on. We already have, and we're continuing to do so.
do you think I always wondered, your system is, I mean, AI didn't come out when you started your business.
Yeah.
Is that an external threat? The fact that now all these new AI platforms are there, people that started before AI came on the market, like, do you plan on moving your system to, or already have moved your system to an AI enabled system?
Yeah, so it's not that it's not like we need to move from we don't need to change the entire framework.
Okay.
There are some internal competencies that we had to kind of shore up and bring in and start building, new features in mind, building our new features with being AI enabled in mind. So wasn't like some big like, hey, we're starting from a disadvantage.
Mm,
I looked at it as an advantage, right? Like everybody sees AI as this big boom. There are AI companies getting built everywhere.
mm,
A company is way more than a product,
right.
right? You got to go to market, you got to go find people, you got to support that. Um, we've done all that, right? So we have product market fit. We have a product, we have customers that like it. It's a lot easier for us to kind of weave it into this existing product than it would be for a company to build from scratch. So yes, they can code faster. Yes, they can build a product faster, but can they build a company as
Mm,
fast? And that I'm not sure.
right. Because you have the foundation of it.
Yeah.
Um, Before we get into the lightning round, what's next for your business? And have I missed anything that we should talk about?
Yeah. So, I mean, what's next? Just more of the same, right? Like we're hyper focused on meeting and working with as many companies as we can. We're driving a significant impact on the ones that we're working with. And we just need, more swings of the bat, right? So the construction industry is very unique in the sense that, there are very, very successful companies doing hundreds of million in revenue that don't even have websites, right?
Mhm.
Their business isn't necessarily geographically scalable. So it's just like they have all the work they need. So how do we reach those companies, right?
Mhm.
So, there's a lot of that, like getting out in front of more companies. We need to build more products. We need to become more efficient with AI. We're really focused on, are there new markets for us that are really ripe for this? And then just again, kind of continuing what we're doing now.
Amazing. And is there anything else we missed that we should talk about?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'd say at the heart of it, I'll just go back to people. You cannot build a business of any kind without good people. I have really, really good people who believe in me and, follow me no matter how crazy I am and how crazy my ideas are. Um, these are the same concepts that made me successful in construction,
Mm,
right? Like my jobs were done under budget because I had a bunch of warriors carrying material for me all day,
mm,
right? It doesn't matter how much of a bull, how strong, and how many hours I work. I can't do that without them on that mission, right? So I just believe very much in building teams, empowering people, putting them in the right spots for them to shine and letting them do, the heavy lifting and letting them do what they're special at. Like I have, 40 employees. They're all of them are smarter than me in different areas,
mm,
right? And if I want to try to tell them and I want to try to control everything, I'm never going to get anywhere. So I just focus on assembling a really good team, putting them in the best place to succeed. And sometimes that evolves over the course of the business. And if it's like, you belong on this bus, but you're in the wrong seat, we're going to move you a seat, right? But if you don't belong on this bus, like you're off the bus, right? So I would just kind of reinforce that like company is about people and scaling companies aggressively while maintaining good culture is difficult,
mm,
right? Giving people shit because they missed their
mm,
numbers, but having them come back in the next day trying to hit that number even harder is an art, right?
mm.
So I just think it's important, surround yourself with good people. If you don't have the right people, identify that right away, get rid of them, and continue to bring in A players.
Do you do the hiring still?
So I did for a long time, got away from it, and the hiring I wouldn't say got bad, but it
Mm,
got a little different. And I'm back into it. So I'd say like I'm one small layer kind of at the end
mm,
to kind of check off a couple boxes, right? For us, values is an important thing. We did this kind of, early exercise of kind of vision, mission, values
mm.
kind of thing. And I thought it was like the dumbest stuff ever. I'm like, this is so like annoying, right? But as we're 40 employees today, but like we've hired 50, 60,
Mm,
70, right? Like there's been many not great fits.
mm,
And at the end of the day, when you look at those people that are struggling, you always realize they don't fit in that box,
mm,
right? They don't fit in your box of values. They don't care about the same stuff you care about, and they're never going to get there. So it's just like using those principles to find your good people. This guy works his ass off. He works so he gets the job done.
mm,
Good isn't good enough, right?
mm,
Kind of those things are unteachable,
mm.
right? If you have that, we'll take you and you have a seat on this bus.
Right. So now you're back into it and so your core values, what are they?
Yeah. So our core values are people over process. We are not in a mediocre sport,
Mm,
right? Like SaaS companies is the hardest trek there
yeah.
is, right? So we can't be satisfied that it works. It's all right. Like we got to be great,
Mm.
right?
But I do like the people over process because even when I was building my firm, anything that went wrong, I felt like we put a process over it rather than was it the right person doing that work? And you can't put people in boxes. Let them think and
Yep,
make decisions and be people
for sure.
and harness the person versus the process.
For sure. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And like, what are they good at?
Yeah.
Where can they run?
Yeah.
And stop trying to like constrain them. Right.
So we always do a lightning round. The first question I have for you is what's your number one superpower?
I'd say I've got, all right. So what's my number one superpower? I'd say building teams,
What's one metric you always ask customers about?
user adoption.
What's the biggest misconception tech people have about construction?
The biggest misconception that tech people have about construction is that these are unintelligent and difficult people to work with.
Mm. What's one safety habit that should be a non negotiable everywhere?
Working at heights. Falls kills more people than any other um, type of incident. So that's a non-negotiable. And
What's the most expensive mistake you made early building your business?
yeah, so the most expensive mistake I made building the business early on was trying to expand into new markets too quickly. So hiring localized reps without having the proper infrastructure back home to be able to make that successful initiative.
So they were out there doing work and the results weren't coming in
The
because
results weren't coming in, and I mean, there's a combination of like not hiring the right people and a combination of us
right.
not enabling them to be successful, right? And those are expensive learnings that you retool and try to reload.
What's one thing you still do like a foreman, even as the CEO?
One thing I still do as a foreman, or one thing say that again.
What's one thing you still do like a foreman, even if you're even as the CEO?
So I start my day at 4 o'clock in the morning.
What time you go to bed at?
9 before my kids.
um, what's a construction trend you're bullish on?
Connectivity and data, right? So you can't manage what you can't see in construction. We need to create one system, one software where everybody can collaborate with to give us insights to make proactive decisions with the business.
Hmm. What's a belief you had about leadership that you've changed recently?
Yeah, that's easy. So, I mean, maybe not recently, but I take it back to construction, right? Like when you start as an apprentice, you want to be a sub foreman, and you're sub foreman, you want to be a foreman, right? I thought that being a foreman meant I would carry less and work less hours, but I carried more and worked more hours. So if I fast forward that to here, it's like my perception of a CEO is this guy that sat in this big chair and basically did nothing and told five, six people what to do every day that did everything. That's not what happens, right? You end up having to wear a lot of hats, do a lot of things, work way more hours than you thought you'd have to.
Speed of rollout or perfect configuration?
It's got to be both. So we emphasize time to value, right? I'm not the only one with ADD. We sell to somebody and we don't like tickle their fancy. They get bored and they drop us, right? Regardless of what they paid us. These companies print money, right?
Mm.
So time to value is super important.
If you started, if you started today, if you left a sticky note on your first laptop before you ever got started, what would it say?
I left a sticky note on my laptop
On your
before I
first laptop, what would it say?
you can do this.
Shawn, thank you so much for joining. I love your energy.
I
Like
appreciate it.
I resonate with it. I think that the best entrepreneurs are the ones that love risk.
Yeah.
And you see the news and everything out there that is against a lot of things of what you're saying about how to be an entrepreneur, and like boredom is good, and but you've embraced your superpower, and now you're taking it to scale a business. And I think if anyone wants to start a business and um wants to look outside that window and think differently, because that's exactly how I think about business too. I'm building a business right now. I'm like, how hasn't anyone fixed this problem in tax? And why am I the only one thinking about it? Maybe there's a few people that are thinking about it, no one's executing on it or whatever. But I'm always so curious about what else you can do and what else is out there. And that's what really connected me with your story. And the fact that like when I started, I went to, get my MBA and had the accounting experience, the foundations in business before I got started. You freaking just jumped in and was like, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna knock on doors. I'm gonna take one day at a time. Nothing's gonna intimidate me, or if something does, I'm gonna work through it.
Yeah.
And now you're, X amount of years later, just 40 staff, building the economy, small businesses build the economy, embracing in tech, right?
Yeah.
Learning everything around there. And the sky's the limit for you because you have the foundation of being successful, and that's just working hard and putting yourself out there. So thank you for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. If people wanted to get a hold of you, where's the best way to
Yeah.
get a hold of you?
Yeah. So I'd say I'm oddly enough, you may not be able to tell from this conversation, but I am an introvert.
Hmm.
So like, I don't have a whole bunch of social medias where like, but I am active on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So I think the best way to kind of follow me and what we're doing, what our company is doing is on LinkedIn. Yeah, please reach out, connect.
And your website?
So our website is corfix.com. Check it out. And yeah,
Thanks, Shawn.
appreciate it.
Share this with a friend so that they could be a part of this journey too. Keep watching for more.